This is Rock and Roll English. Real people, real English. Here's your host, Martin Johnston.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Rock and Roll English. Well, kind of an episode. I'm here to tell you something very special. You may or may not remember I told you about a 14-day challenge, free challenge that I am offering. That will help you learn advanced vocabulary, but the best thing is that you do not need to study. In fact, I have named it Advanced English Vocabulary for Lazy People. Okay, this is how it works. You will receive a podcast every day for 2 weeks with 3 new pieces of vocabulary in a story, and then there will be a story at the end using that vocabulary. Now, you probably understood nothing there, right? So what I thought I would do is I will play you the first episode here, because if you want to join this challenge, you need to subscribe to a secret podcast. You will only hear episode 1 of the challenge here today. So if you enjoy this episode, which you will listen to in a few minutes, stop the podcast you are listening to, then click the link inside the description of the episode, put in your name and email address, and from there you will receive all of the instructions and you will receive the 14 podcasts for the 2-week challenge. But remember, the best thing about it is you will learn advanced English vocabulary without studying. It is for lazy people like you who want to improve their vocabulary but have no time to study. I have made it exactly for people like you because I repeat the vocabulary in crazy, stupid rock and roll stories repeatedly so that the vocabulary stays in your head and you remember it naturally without having to study vocabulary lists or anything like that. But as I said, it will be much clearer once you hear the episode. So here is day 1 of the challenge. I will play the episode for you now and then I will talk to you again at the end. Happy listening. So here we are for day 1 of the 2-week challenge, Advanced English Vocabulary for Lazy People like you. So today we have 3 terms. I am going to tell you a story about each of these terms, a personal story connected to me, and then I will tell you a very strange story which will use all 3 of the terms. Are you ready? Let's go. So, in 2008, I moved to London with a couple of my friends, one of them being Boom Boom from the podcast. You may or may not know him. And our house was very near the financial district of London. So, very near to our house were some huge skyscrapers with big lights, and it was very wow. And I remember the very first night at that house, we walked by these enormous buildings, skyscrapers. And I remember Boom Boom, my friend, turning to me and saying, "Can you believe we actually live here?" Because obviously it was an exciting thing for us to live in London, one of the biggest and most important cities in the world. We were so excited, but that excitement quickly wore off as there wasn't really much to do there at the weekend, and then we actually didn't like living there and changed house after 1 year. Now, did you hear me use the expression there? The excitement wore off. So that is the phrasal verb to wear off, which means when something gradually loses its effect over time. So in this case, the excitement gradually lost its effect. The excitement wore off. So now let's go to the next story. So at that time in 2008, I worked in banking. I actually worked in that financial district of London. And that job was a job I had wanted for a long time. But again, the excitement quickly wore off. And I noticed that financial numbers didn't really get me going. So I decided to leave banking, I moved to Italy, and then I became a very poor English teacher. So did you notice there I said financial numbers didn't really get me going? So when something gets you going, it gets you excited. It makes you feel enthusiastic or energized about something. And I didn't feel enthusiastic or energized about boring financial numbers. They didn't get me going, so I decided to leave banking. So, another story. When I was about 15 years old, my dad one day said to me, "Can you hang the washing out?" So that means taking the washing and putting it on the clothesline outside in the garden. Because it was a lovely sunny day in England, my dad was going to work and he said, "When the washing finishes, the washing machine, please hang the clothes on the washing line." Now, I don't think I had ever done that before. And as you can imagine, I was 15 years old, it was the summer holidays, so one thing I did not want to be doing was hanging out the washing. It wasn't really something that got me going, let's say. So I thought, what is the quickest way possible to do this? Now, you may know when you hang washing on a clothesline, you need those things which make the clothes stick there so that the clothes don't fly away. Those are called pegs. But I decided I wanted to cut corners and not use pegs because I thought the clothes are staying here anyway. It's not very windy. I don't need pegs. Using pegs takes up more time. So I decided to cut corners, not use the pegs. And then my dad came home later and said, "Why is the washing all over the garden?" Because obviously in the end it did get windy and it blew the washing away because I didn't use the pegs. Now, you may notice I used the term there, I decided to cut corners. So when you cut corners, you do something quickly and not properly, which often makes the result bad, which is exactly the case here. I did my job of hanging the washing quickly and not properly, because I decided to cut corners, which made the result worse because then there was washing all over the floor and my dad was not happy. So there we have our 3 terms of today. To wear off, when something gradually loses its effect over time, like living in the financial district of London, the excitement did quickly wear off. And to get me going or get someone going, which means to feel enthusiastic or energized about something. So banking didn't get me going, so I decided to leave that job and do something else. And the last one, to cut corners, which means to do something quickly and not properly, often making it worse. Like when I decided to hang out the washing, I decided to cut corners and the result was not so good in the end. So those were our 3 new pieces of vocabulary for today. So now here is the R&R story. Are you ready? Let's go. Max was a strange child at school. He didn't like the same things as the other boys. Things like sports and cars didn't really get him going. The thing that got him going the most was inventing new things. He was so good at inventing things that one day he made a special toilet that was also a chair, so that people could go to the toilet whilst watching TV. He got paid to do this, but once he started getting paid money to invent things, the excitement of inventing things quickly wore off. So, whilst making the toilet, he cut a lot of corners, which meant the toilet didn't work properly, and there were lots of unhappy people that went to the toilet whilst watching TV. The moral of the story: never cut corners, especially when making a toilet. So that is it for today. I will see you tomorrow for some more advanced English vocabulary for lazy people. Remember, you can also access all of today's vocabulary definitions and stories by clicking on the link inside this podcast, which will take you to a PDF which has all of it. So thanks again for listening. I will see you tomorrow, but in the meantime, just keep on rocking, baby. So did you get an understanding for how it works? I hope so. As you may have noticed, I introduced the vocabulary in stories. Then I tell you a ridiculous R&R story at the end that uses all of the vocabulary. Then tomorrow I introduce 3 new terms, but I recycle all of the vocabulary from the previous day. And every day works like this. On day 3, I will introduce 3 new terms again, but recycle the vocabulary from days 1 and 2, so that it stays in your head and you remember it naturally, so that you do not need to study vocabulary lists, because this challenge is made for lazy people like you. So if you would like to take part, it is not too late. you will just be a couple of days behind everyone else in the challenge, but it makes absolutely no difference. So if you would like to take part, click stop on the podcast you are listening to right now. Go to the description of this podcast and there will be a link. Click that link, insert your name and email address, and then you will receive an email from me with all of the instructions. If that's too difficult, send me an email, martin@rockandrollenglish.com. So that's it for today. I hope to see you on the 14-day challenge, but in the meantime, just keep on rocking, baby.
Thanks so much for listening to Rock and Roll English. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit rockandrollenglish.com and facebook.com/rockandrollenglish. We'll catch you next time.